In NFL free agency, there are the winners, and then there are the losers. The teams that lose multiple important pieces or just put together a plan of pure incompetence. These are the top 5 losers of this past NFL free agency. Before I present to you these disasters, Gronk, spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL. Kicking it off at number 5, the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings, your biggest need was your offensive line. What are you doing? Are you going to help Kirk Cousins at any point throughout this process? You spend all this money on Kirk Cousins, expecting him to bring you to the promised land, and you don't even try and protect him. The Vikings lost four offensive linemen. They gained just 1. They lost 3 starting capable linemen: Compton, Ramers, and Easton. Compton and Ramers are by no means fantastic players, but they were starters. At the guard position, a position that you guys have just struggled with for seasons on end, and now they're gone. The only move you really made to replace either of these players was by signing Josh Klein. So if your plan was really to replace these players because they played poorly, no, it wasn't. You brought in Josh Klein. Nick Easton is a really solid center who has versatility to also play guard. So if you wanted to play him there, you could have, but you let him leave to New Orleans. The Saints, a team with already a great offensive line, a team that knows what they're doing in the front office, they obviously felt he was pretty good by the contract they offered him, and one of the players who could have really helped your depth in Brett Jones is also gone. Latavius Murray is a rare running back with a combination of height, power, and speed, who has played really well in place of Dalvin Cook. I understand the money was tight for the Vikings, but Cook has shown that he is injury prone, and it's not going to be easy to replace a backup like Latavius Murray. On the defensive side of the football, moving on from Sheldon Richardson does make some sense, considering his contract from Cleveland was pretty outrageous. His name doesn't really match his value, but again, he was a starter for your team, and at times he has the ability to dominate a game. They replace him with Shamar Stephen. Who? Exactly. He returns back to Minnesota, ranking 98th by Pro Football Focus as a Seahawk in 2018. Losing Sendeo, I think, will hurt the leadership and the locker room, but overall, on the field, Harris was already ready to replace him, and Sherrills, I think, will be missed in terms of his special teams play. The Vikings get worse at guard, at center, at defensive line, at running back, safety, backup quarterback, and special teams. They get better at nothing. At number 4, the Ravens. The Ravens are more of the unfortunate losers than really anything due to a lack of effort or intelligence by their front office. They mostly got stuck in a tight cap situation, but at least Flacco is finally gone. My issue with the Ravens is they failed to keep part of their identity, which was CJ Mosley and Zadarius Smith. In order to play the style that you want to play with Lamar Jackson, you need as talented a defense as possible. Mosley was their leader on defense, their heart and soul. He made others around him better and was stolen away by the New York Jets, who paid an incredible amount of money for his services. Smith was a super underrated player who was a prototypical Ravens edge defender. Big, tough to move. He can set the edge and he can go after the quarterback. They upgraded with Earl Thomas over Weddle, and despite Weddle's leadership and toughness, I think Thomas is just a better, more athletic player who can bring the same intelligence and communication to their secondary. I feel Thomas will thrive in Baltimore, so I do really like that signing. But then you go back to, okay, Terrell Suggs. He is gone. That's really going to sting the locker room. He's still a very capable defender. He's a legend of the Baltimore Ravens, and I believe he will be missed. They could have really kept John Brown, who I felt was their best threat at wide receiver last season, to give Lamar Jackson this upcoming year, but they decided to move on. And now they're really just left with Willie Snead as their only wide receiver and not much else. Mark Ingram is an upgrade at running back who really fits their style of play, but overall, the Ravens downgraded at linebacker, edge, depth on the defensive line, wide receiver, and upgraded at running back and safety with just 2 signings of Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas. At number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, as we know them, have drastically changed. That's what happens when you're successful in the NFL. Everyone wants your players, and you can't pay every single one of them. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, they're losing these players at exactly the wrong time. Don't get me wrong, the Chiefs added some really nice players who I think can really help them. Tyrann Mathieu will help their secondary, which was awful last season. His strength is that he can play multiple roles and really do everything for a secondary. And this secondary in Kansas City needs a little bit of everything. He can fill multiple spots for them, whether it's free safety, whether it's a little bit in the box safety, or as a slot corner. Mathieu is a tenacious player, and he brings energy to a football team and a defense that I just think really needs this type of energy. Carlos Hyde is an upgrade over Spencer Ware, a similar stocky power-based running back, but with a little bit more in terms of shedding tacklers in the open field and grinding out that extra yard or two. At safety and running back, the Chiefs improved. As for the positions that they're worse at, well, they lost their 2 best pass rushers and edge setters in Dee Ford and Justin Houston. I've heard many Chief fans get in the comments and attempt to downplay Dee Ford's success this past season. I think you're absolutely losing your mind if you don't think that Dee Ford is an impactful defensive player. You're lying to yourself. He was the best in the game off the edge in terms of creating difference-making plays, and now that aspect to your defense is missing. The most forced fumbles in the NFL last year, 13 sacks, and the highest pass rushing grade from PFF at his position. Justin Houston, when he plays, he's still equally disruptive, a play wrecker in the run game and a monster as a pass rusher. They helped soften the blow with Alex Okafor, so that's pretty good. He's an all-around edge defender, but overall, you're not going to get nearly the same production from just one Alex Okafor as opposed to Justin Houston and Dee Ford. And I understand your defense was really, really bad last year and it couldn't really get worse, but could it get worse? Maybe. I don't know. Rashad Breeland is a downgrade from Nelson at corner, who was competitive in man-to-man coverage, which I think helped the Chiefs in terms of their defensive scheme. And then you look at Allen Bailey, who's a talented interior player who is now gone and looking to sign with another team. Mitch Morse is one of the best pass blocking centers in the game. He's gone. And Demetrius Harris and Chris Connolly are both really talented depth players at wide receiver and tight end. Not like you're really going to significantly miss these guys, but it's going to show down the stretch throughout the season when injuries pop up. When Sammy Watkins ends up getting injured, Chris Connolly would have come in handy. So at number 2, the Washington Redskins. They just stink. They are arguably the most consistently awful free agency team in the history of the NFL. They made even more head-scratching moves in 2019. They added Landon Collins. On the surface, that sounds fantastic. He's good. He can be really good. But they had DJ Swearinger and Zach Brown, who essentially can do the same thing. Zach Brown, according to Pro Football Focus, top 5 linebacker in the game. DJ Swearinger had his best season yet. Instead, they get rid of both players and they overpay for Landon Collins, a safety whose strength is as an in-box player, which is basically a linebacker in today's NFL. It just does not make sense. Then they go out and sign one of the worst tackles in the entire NFL in Eric Flowers. Okay, if you think that's going to work. On the flip side, they lose Preston Smith, a young pass rusher entering his prime who just had his best season. Jamison Crowder, in my opinion, their most talented wide receiver. Clinton Dix is a playmaking safety. And then they lose Maurice Harris, another depth receiver who actually in his opportunities looked pretty good for them. So that's even more depth that's lost at the wide receiver group. And the Redskins might have the worst receiver group in the NFL. You know what? No, they do have the worst receiver group in the NFL. The Redskins are a complete mess of a franchise. It's all over Jay Gruden's face, and they are big time losers for overpaying Landon Collins and losing a ton of their more talented players. They're worse at edge, wide receiver, offensive line, linebacker, and yes, safety, because I'd rather have Clinton Dix and Swearinger than just Collins. But again, this is just my opinion. They're better really nowhere, so I don't really know what you could say to me. At number 1, do I even have to say it? Are you sure? Like, can I just end the video now? I'm just gonna allow my man The Rock express my emotions about the New York Giants.
Sweet cream on an ice cream sandwich. What in the blue hell are you doing?
Giants are not only losers of free agency, they're just lost in general. Dave Gettleman is the world's most confusing general manager. He says that every move he makes is to send a message to the football team. So wait, if that's your plan, what message are you trying to send, Dave Gettleman? Are you saying that you're trying to win now, or are you trying to rebuild? Because I'm lost. I'm confused. If you're winning now, wouldn't you want arguably the greatest receiver in the game on your team, or possibly your defensive leader on your team? I'm lost. Again, if you're rebuilding, why do you have Eli Manning at quarterback, the 34th best quarterback in the NFL? I might be being nice on that point. He's done. Get over it. Move on. Eli sucks. Okay, I actually like the Zeitler and Vernon trade. I thought that was beneficial for their football team. They needed offensive linemen. I actually like the Golden signing. I think that's very nice for them because they needed an edge player. But this team lacks direction. This team signed Golden Tate after just trading Odell Beckham Jr. to a ludicrous contract. And on top of it, it's just puzzling. It's just idiotic. And the Giants just are going to be completely awful because they cannot decide whether they want to pursue a championship team, even though that would never happen with this Eli Manning, or they want to get the first overall pick. They're lost, and that is why they're number 1. It's not because they made the worst moves, because I really don't think that's the case. I just think they have the worst direction, and that's why the Giants are number 1. Let me know who you guys think was the biggest loser of free agency in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys thought about my top 5. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and Gronk spike the like button. Peace.